Welcome, everybody, to the Mindset Matters podcast. I'm your host, Denise, Zack, and with me today is my amazing co-host, Brian J. Esposito. Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Hey, Denise, I love that intro. Great music.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah, oh, thank you very much. Thank you. I'm so excited to have you here. I'm just excited about the topic that we're going to be talking about today. I want to get into that in just a little bit. I want people to hear about you, though. Brian Esposito is an amazing person. He's ranked among the world's top 20 or top 10 CEOs for 2020. And that's in the World CEO Ranking Awards by Adria Management LLC. And Brian, he's the founder and CEO of Esposito Intellectual Enterprises. He's an award-winning serial entrepreneur and business leader. And his latest venture and business as co-founder in the NFT world is Vapes, in the community called the Vapes Clan, which are business apes, which is taking the NFT world by storm. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. I'm super excited to have you here today. For those of you who don't know, who haven't been here before, I'm a life coach and I work on mindset and mindfulness. That's what I teach. That's what I do. And I bring on people and I talk with my co-hosts, people who understand what mindset is all about and the success that it takes, or the mindset that it takes to have success. So this podcast talks about matters of the mind because our mindset really does matter. How we show up to our day matters. The way that we operate on a moment-to-moment basis with everything going on in the world matters. And so we discuss the issues chosen by you. And when we talk, we're hoping to inform our listeners, to give you strategies, real life strategies, inspiration, so that you can live your best life. And we hope that you take something away from this. We hope that you walk away with some information, with some way of operating in the world that you think will help you to be more balanced or hopeful, and just more successful in your life in general. And that's pretty much it. Brian, I have a topic for us today that one of our listeners, hopefully they're viewing today. I'd love to hear your comments. So those of you who are tuned in, please let us know your comments and let us know your thoughts as we're talking today. But the topic that we have today is mental chaos, right? And and that's Gina Festa from Connecticut. So thank you, Gina. I hope you're listening in today. Thank you for that suggestion. But when we talk about mental chaos, I don't think there's a person in the world right now who can't relate to that feeling of overwhelm. So I'd like to just kind of jump in and dive in because we've got literally 20 minutes where we're just going to give a bunch of information to people. What are your thoughts on that topic and kind of just the world and the environment and the culture that we're living in right now?
Yeah, it was tough before this. So it's everybody's going through their own anxieties. On that point, there's a wonderful organization I'm part of called Invisible Disabilities. It's been around for over 25 years, helping people, giving them some support, resources, community, and tools if they're battling an invisible disability. So it's very easy to spot an ailment if somebody's in a wheelchair or on crutches, or if they have some sort of a physical disability. But now more than ever, the entire world, as you said, Denise, is living with invisible disabilities, and that's political unrest, economic uncertainties, even household drama. If you believe in one way, if somebody believes in another. So there's a lot going on, and then you have to work, right? Or you have to provide, and you have to get through the rest of your life, or be a mother, be a father, get your kids to the basketball practice. So mental chaos is a real thing, and you should sit down and acknowledge it. And the most important thing is you just know you're not alone. And in this chapter of everybody's life, it's really great to know that you're not alone because the whole world is going through it. So if you can find some peace and comfort in that, it's a little comforting knowing that you're not being picked on. This is not aimed at you. And it's also a great time to maybe reinvent yourself. I've seen so many wonderful people say, you know what, I wasn't happy before, definitely not happy now. What do I love to do? What are my passions? And you start seeing all these incredible, even business coaches and consultants. People are taking their skill sets and going out into the world and creating their own companies, and they're getting a couple of clients, but they're in control of their own world now. And they're making money, they're feeling good about themselves, they're not getting beaten down by a boss or a manager or in a toxic work environment. So it's a tough, scary thing to do, but what a great time in our history to say, I want to go on a different path. And you can actually use what's happened to get on that path. And then obviously listen to wonderful people like you, meet people like you that can help guide them, motivate them, inspire them. There's many tools and resources out there to help people. I'm not a big fan of the rah-rah people that say, can go out and make $10 billion tomorrow and just sign up for my program.
Yeah.
I don't think that's realistic, and I think you're setting yourself up for disappointment. I like slow, steady, calculated moves that aren't going to risk or disrupt your life, but just start to make decisions to start doing something that you really love and get on a path or on a journey that you feel good about and that you're passionate about, and that you find some joy in.
You've said so many things that are
I'm sorry.
resonating.
I'm drinking
No,
my coffee, so it's like, boom, boom, boom.
You're just firing on all synapses this morning. It's awesome though, because just starting with the first piece that you talked about, which those invisible disabilities, people I think have not given enough attention to the fact that psychological distress can worsen when things are going bad around us.
Yeah.
When you have stress, like you talked about, the political unrest, just the things going on in the world today, you don't realize how much for the typical person, someone who isn't suffering from anxiety or depression or some other mental illness, it is enough to cause distress and chaos. But for the people who actually have an invisible disability, it's harder to deal with those complexities of life. And so it's so important that we have compassion for one another, that we provide support, that we recognize that these kinds of things are happening, and that we don't just sweep things under the carpet and not pay attention to them. In addition to that, you talk about the slow and steady, and that you're not
go back 1 second on the invisible disability point.
Go
I'm
for it.
starting up there. I think also people think it's a sign of weakness, and I'm not saying that's everybody, but I, for one, have anxiety embedded in my DNA.
Yeah.
It's maybe an Italian thing, living in a household of guilt, but like, I'm open about it, and I try to work on it, and I try to better myself and try to be a little bit stronger, but I acknowledge it. The first step of fixing anything is being aware of it, accepting it, and then find things that help you overcome it. It's very difficult to describe anxiety to someone that's never had it. It cripples you. It takes over your entire life in that moment. Your beat starts to go crazy. Some people get numb, their hands start to, and if you don't know that feeling, you cannot explain it to somebody. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think it's important that people like own it, right? This is part of who I am. It's not a weakness.
Yeah.
And find ways to work on it. I mean, I've gotten so much better over it. I actually was more of a outward vocal kind of person. When I would get it, I would kind of shout out and that's how I would release it. I would just, and that wasn't healthy either. So I just had to continue to work on myself to find balance and peace. And I'm going off for a long tangent. We only have a few minutes, but the thing that worked the best for me was eliminating toxic people. It was never really my own anxieties or my own made up thoughts that gave it to me. It was other people affecting my life. And I like to be a people kind of person. I like to be kind to people. So it was very difficult for me to start firing people from my life. But once I started doing that, I realized, wow, I can breathe again. And I felt safe. So people listening, look around your environment, because I really believe a lot of it is triggered by toxic, negative people. Could even be family members. Now, this is your life. You need to be happy. Nobody knows how long we're going to be here. And if you got to make tough decisions to make yourself feel better and to get through the day, then you got to make those decisions.
Absolutely. And it's such an important point to make, Brian, because at the end of the day, I think people sometimes feel helpless to everything that's going on around them. They don't feel like they have their own agency to be able to make those decisions and be able to stand up and set boundaries and say, this isn't working for me anymore. And you know what? The chaos that I'm feeling is actually not all my chaos. It's being imposed on me by the people around me. And how do I set those boundaries? And like you said, it doesn't mean you necessarily even have to fire people from your life, although that may absolutely be the strategy. It could be that you just limit the time that you spend with that person and prepare yourself mentally when you have to be around that person. If it's a parent, if it's a significant other, and you're trying to make the relationship work and be as healthy as possible. Those are the kinds of things we want to pay attention to. And the narratives that are sometimes dictated for us can really impact us in a negative way. So I think making that distinction too between what is your own narrative and what's the story you're telling yourself versus what is the story that's being told to you, where's the truth in there, and then how do you kind of move forward to be able to set those boundaries and make those decisions for yourself, which is so critically important. I want to get back to the slow and steady piece too, because you talk about, there's a lot of people out there who want to help and are kind of those, those 5-minute cheerleaders who get you pumped up in that moment, but then you walk away and what skills do you actually have? What are you actually doing that's going to change in your life from that experience? And I love what you're talking about, Brian, which is really taking a look at your life. When I talk about, the reason I focus on mindfulness in my work is because mindfulness is paying attention in the moment to everything that's going on without judgment for yourself, without judgment for other people, using compassion and using kindness in those moments. And there's 3 elements to that. And I want to hear your take on it.
Go ahead. All
right. When I talk about mindfulness and I talk about really paying attention to your own self-care, 3 things. Your intention has to be there because you have to know that there's an issue that has to be paid attention to or dealt with. You have to pay attention to it in a thoughtful enough way that you can actually do something to change it. And then you have to have the right attitude. And that means learning how to relate to that experience around you, those experiences in life that cause the problem or are causing your distress, so that, and that's the hard part, so that you can actually create that shift. So paying attention, having intention that you want to shift it, and then having the right attitude to move forward. What are your thoughts on that with mindfulness?
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I would add something to encumber all that and having the right support system behind you, because you can have all those intentions in the world to do it, but if, again, goes back to who you're in a circle, who's around you to help push you to do that. There's a lot of times where I had to shut the world off and go alone because I was in a tornado of hell and I didn't know who to trust, who really had my best interests at heart, whose thoughts were mine. That was one of my biggest things. Like, wait, I lost my thoughts on in a certain chapter of my life. I'm other people's influence and opinions. I'm starting to think like them, and it's very easy to do if it's somebody that you trust and admire. But if they don't have your best interest at heart, and maybe they're living vicariously through you, like all these different weird situations we find ourselves in, I had to just say, wait a minute. I knew who I was. I loved who I was. I'm definitely not as generous, even to an extent, as kind as I used to be, and I'm really regretful for that, because my journey has allowed me to become a little more hard, for lack of a better word, a little more. No, I'm not closed off. I love people. Even when we talk about Vapes, what I'm doing there, like I'm in it. I'm in it with people. I love learning what the markets are doing. I love understanding things. But when you're trying to do those 3 things that you said, you need to make sure that you have the right people or person supporting you to achieve those. Otherwise, it's not going to be a fun process, and I don't think it's going to be a successful process.
I completely agree with you. And there's that mindful element to it, right? Which is not just taking a step back from yourself and realizing how you're being impacted by the information or energy around you, but also really paying attention to the dynamics that are occurring around you, and thinking about how you want to show up.
Yeah.
What ways do you want to show up, and doing it in the way that you're talking about, right? Bringing that, you can be direct with someone, but you can be compassionate.
Just gonna say that, and find your voice. There were so many times where my gut was saying no, but you sit in that room and you want to be respectful to that person, because again, you have compassion. But the more that you're in that room when you don't want to be, you're wasting your time, and you're starting to get like emotions or angry. You're starting to get frustrated, and on that whole process, the minute there's been moments where I hang up a phone, or I hop off a Zoom, or I leave a room, and I'm proud of myself because I got up and left. I didn't want to be there. I didn't need to be there. I didn't like what was going on. But prior to me finding my authority in the moment and feeling good about my confidence and feeling good about my thoughts and, being in line and consistent, I would sit in that room for hours. I would be part of all that. And my rest of my day would just suck. I would just be, I would have no, I'd just be deflated, for lack of a better word. So when you find your voice and you find your strength, it's infectious, and you want to continue to do it. But like you said, there's no need to be a jerk about it. You could be compassionate about it. There's proper ways to excuse yourself from situations. Again, going back to family, that's a little bit more difficult. That takes a lot of practice. And family can be some people's biggest crutch and hurdle, because there's so many personalities. You were forced into that situation. You had no choice. Those are your siblings. Those are your parents. Those are your cousins,
Right.
whatever it is.
Right.
And you have to learn. Like, one of my biggest things is I always want to help everybody. So I
Yeah.
always went to family with opportunities to say, hey, this is great. Come in with me on this. And it always bit me in the ass. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're a jerk if you don't ask them, and then you're a jerk if you ask them and they don't like the outcome. It's just a lose-lose situation sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And family is one of those challenging things that make it harder to set those boundaries and to really take care of yourself. And I think, and I want to just take a shout out real quick to some of the people tuning in, Doreen and Gary. Thank you for your comments. And Doreen is asking us to talk about the person who's been disconnected from family and friends, that, many times you can get blindsided. And maybe getting blindsided by negativity, getting blindsided by their energy. What are your thoughts on kind of those distant people? Yeah.
I could speak firsthand on that. And you said Doreen, correct? I asked that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, even in not even my own family, I've witnessed it in so many different families, because I have such a great inner circle of business colleagues, and we have a trust about us, and when we share things with each other, and there's something very consistent in a lot of families that's there should be a study on it. Everything tends to be fine until an outsider comes in. So that's like you have the parent and the kids, and then there's a girlfriend or a boyfriend comes in, and then things start to get a little rocky, and then there's an engagement, and then there's a marriage, and there's a consistent friction point when that happens, and it's a shame, because it should be a supportive situation. If a kid falls in love with somebody, the family should support that. Whether you like the person or not is absolutely irrelevant. Whether you were right or wrong about that person that was going to be bad for them, absolutely irrelevant. This is that person's journey, and you should support it and let them figure it out. Because what happens is, if you're in there and you're telling this person because you love them, I'm not saying you don't have the right intentions, you're telling this person that they're no good, you're actually causing a situation where they want to prove you wrong. And then they're staying, and you're actually making them stay in that situation longer, because their motivation has changed to prove the family unit wrong. And I've seen this so many times, and it's actually amazing. I watch it like a movie. I'm like, this is amazing. Look what's happening here. This great family, and then somebody came in, and it just all went to hell. And why? It's absolutely. It would be an amazing study if there's not one done on that.
I'm sure we could find it if we look hard enough. I'm sure we'll find that study somewhere.
Oh, but let me go back to answering her question, I guess. So, if there's distance and it fell apart, you got to try to mend it. I mean, people are losing their lives all the time, whether it's cancer, whether it's this COVID stuff or heart attacks. People can just drop dead at any moment, and you cannot fix it when that happens. Family units, siblings, you got to put your guns on the table and just fix it, and go back to what you said before, Doreen. Just give it a little bit of your time. You don't have to go back in all in and be involved in that chaos. If it's a toxic environment, it's a toxic environment, but you need to be at peace with it, because that's going to allow you to at least sleep at night, not have this burden. And God forbid something happens to that family member that you don't speak to, you will never have a chance to have closure and be at peace with it. So do what you can to at least resolve it in your own mind and on your own terms.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And, the other piece of that is understanding the thinking about and knowing what kind of energy it's going to take for you to be able to to deal with that. And you have to do it at a time when it works for you. You have to do it when you're in the right place to be able to do it.
Yes.
Because it does take energy. It does take emotional energy.
Oh, you got to you got to psych yourself out like you're going into a Super Bowl game. And there's
Yeah.
a big psychological growth that you need to do to be able to overcome that. And you need to leave that situation not affected. Like it's got to be like water off a duck's back, whatever they say. Whatever that
Right.
person tells you, whatever they go back to 1975,
Yeah.
you said this about my dress. Just
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
scream,
Right.
count to 10, breathe, and just be at peace. Like you said,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of work. It
Yeah.
takes a lot of
Well,
work.
and one of the things that I talk to people about doing is mentally, when you're mentally preparing yourself, the person that you're dealing with,
Yes.
the people that you have challenge with in your life, and you can write the script before you even walk in the room about what's going to happen. So why not mentally prepare yourself for when this person does this, when this is said, this is how I want to respond. This is what's going to make me feel effective. This is what's going to make me feel better about things.
Make a game out of it.
Yeah, and if you're the one who's been blindsided, know that the stuff that's coming up probably has very little to do with you and has more to do with that person
Yes.
and their issues. And so distancing yourself from that drama and that chaos is super important. We have one more question, and then I want to ask you a little bit about your vapes, and then we're going to wrap up for today because I know people are busy and they have a lot going on. Gary is asking, what is your approach to building trust? So I'm going to ask you this, Brian. When you see potential with another person, but the trust element is not developing, this is where kind of all those thoughts are going on, right? Like all those like rolling thoughts. What do you do in those instances?
I got a million thoughts on that. So I have a rude comment, and nothing against you, Gary. If you want trust and loyalty, get a dog. That's where I'm at in my life. You tell people and share people with basically what you don't mind getting out there. Like I don't talk about any of my personal life when I do these things. It's about business, my story, my journey. And it's not that I'm hiding anything. It's just that I don't, desperate people do desperate things. And then we've all been in those moments. And that's where you start to get your character, your integrity. I say, don't put yourself in a position. If you have a friend or a family member or a colleague that you like and you like their company, confide in them to a limit that you feel comfortable with. There's no need to go really deep because at the end of the day, we all disappoint each other. Nobody is perfect. We are all flawed. So again, on the trust and loyalty factor, I just say accomplish the most you can with somebody. If it's a friendship, get the most out of that friendship. Like you were saying before, know the script. Like people, if you know that person, you know the level where it should stop. It. A lot of people want more out of people, and they're trying to get it. And they well, I do all this for my friend. I set up her bridal shower. I did. That's great because that's who you are. Don't expect it in return because you're going to be disappointed. It's just natural. People will naturally do what they want to do when they want to do it. If you try to force it out of people, it's not going to happen. That's just not how they're wired. And there's nothing wrong with that. I learned one of the biggest things I ever learned and helped me really cope with life was to stop giving people my mindset. It's not reality. They weren't raised in my house. They didn't go through all of my life lessons. If you believe in like old souls and like with journeys in life, like there's nobody like you. We're all thumbprint. We're all snowflake floating around. Like just don't expect people to act, respond, or do like you do, but be pleasantly surprised and happy when they shock you and they do something out of character. But if you're expecting it and you're kind of demanding it, you're only setting yourself up for disappointment. And as far as trust, share with people what you feel you can share. And if you need somebody to speak to and you really got to get some deep things out, there's absolutely nothing wrong with finding someone like you, Denise, a great business coach that's someone you can trust. That's a professional and they can help navigate you. They have experiences. Go see a psychiatrist if you want to share things out, or a psychologist. Go to groups that you can share things with. But I think as far as friendship is concerned, you need to cherish the friendship and don't give it fuel to fall apart. Just enjoy the person's company. Go do things with them. Go for a drink. Go see a movie. But just be careful. If that's someone you really love and that's somebody's company you really admire, think 20 years out and don't do things that could potentially disrupt that.
I
And
love
this is
that.
my opinion. Do what you
Yeah.
want.
And I would add, yeah. I think about concentric circles of trust, right? You've
Yeah.
got people that are in that inner circle that there's probably, hopefully, like one or two people in your world that you know that you would trust with anything. And then there are concentric circles outside of it, that people that you never would trust, people that
Yeah.
certain things you can trust them with, or certain things you can go to them
Yeah.
with, and know who those people are, know what role they play in your life, know what value they bring to your life,
Yeah.
and then judge from there. If you want to work on building trust, but it's not working, then your gut is telling you something. The energy isn't right. It's not aligned, and you need to move on, and you need to just take it for what it is, and move on to,
And it should just be natural.
yeah,
If you have to put effort and work into it, there's
yeah,
something off.
yeah.
But watch these housewives. When I watch these Jersey housewives for like 30 seconds, I get so much anxiety. Like, there's no trust there. There's no trust there. So look at that, and then you could say, well, what works, what doesn't work, and
Yeah, yeah.
anyway, that's
I love it. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. And so for mental chaos today, we are talking about setting boundaries. We're talking about being kind to yourself, not judging yourself or others. We're talking about having the right attitude, which is learning how to relate to the world around you by setting boundaries, and really making sure that you are removing toxic people and situations from your life as best you can, and deciding how you want to show up to your day. I love that. I just kind of do a quick summary of that. I want to talk a little bit with you, Brian, because talking about chaos, right? And having a lot going on, as if you haven't started enough businesses, you just started a new one with Vapes, right? Can you tell us a little bit about it? Because I think it's amazing, and it's
Thanks.
something that not a lot of people know about. So please talk to us about
Absolutely. It's we're humbled. The whole team is humbled. My co-founder Eric Lydecker. We have Brian Brew. We have Mo Zaria, Mike Padilla, a phenomenal Disney Pixar artist, Danal Sheikh. So just amazing team of people where we pushed out Vapes, business apes. So I'm not going to go deep into the NFT world, but NFTs are a very, very hot market right now. The idea of the metaverse. We created a one-of-a-kind utility behind Vapes, Business Apes, or our Vapes clan. We've become the world's largest NFT project in the world, the fastest growing NFT project in the world without spending a single dollar. And we created a movement. So if you go on our Twitter, Vapes clan, we have a Discord. We've gone from 0 to over 100 and something thousand people in our community within a week, or a little over a week. So when you do something that the market is craving, you do it correctly, you can get lightning in a bottle. And I've done, I think, a lot of cool things in my career. I've never experienced what I'm seeing right now. I'm humbled by it. I don't think I'll experience it again in my career. This is definitely a unique moment. And we brought in a lot of these NFT projects. There's not real utility. You see online these things selling for tens, hundreds, millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, some of them. And it's an image, it's a unique image that has some access, and there's a demand for it. We have a massive business model behind it. The entire community benefits when they own one of our Vapes NFTs. They're part of the process. They vote on which projects and companies that we get behind. They're involved in everything. We're fully transparent. And we gave the project things that I always love to do. I just took my typical business stuff and I applied it to this market. We have 25 of what I believe the best business minds from around the world, very focused in their industry, seasoned in their industry. Names like Larry Namer, who started ETV, David Meltzer, a phenomenal friend and partner in a lot of my companies that I have. A brilliant person in sports, great businessman, amazing inspirational, motivational speaker. Andrew Fromm, phenomenal singer songwriter. He wrote for the Backstreet Boys and a bunch of other phenomenal bands. He's one of the top music catalog brokers in the world, very respected in his skill. Charlie Walk, another amazing music executive. He's been on American Idol as a host. He's produced and worked with some of the top pop stars in the world. And the list just continues to go on. We have people from NASA. We have great PR people. So the point of the business ambassadors or the Vapes ambassadors are to be involved in the project, support the project, give the project credibility. But as the funds that come into Vapes from the NFT sale that happens towards the end of this month, we invest, or we metavest, we call it, into metaverse or Web 3.0 companies, but we give those companies the access, resources, and support of all of these business babes, these 25 executives. So think of a company not only getting financial assistance in their process, they're also getting access to media, access to hotels. We have Raul Leal, who's the CEO of the One Hotel, Baccarat, and Treehouse Brands. He was the previous CEO of Virgin Hotel. So all of these projects that the Vapes Meta Fund invest into, they have access to all those people, and it's there to help ensure that those projects succeed. And as they do better with value, the whole Vapes NFT community does better. So, we put together, I think, a very de-risked opportunity. The whole NFT market is going crazy over it, and we're humbled. We're absolutely humbled and excited, and we're going to keep doing what we can to continue to support that community and provide value.
Well, it sounds like it has amazing momentum right now, and it's just something that's going to continue to grow and be hugely successful. And I just think that anything you put your fingers on turns to gold. So
no, not everything, but I'm learning from the other things that didn't. That's the important part.
All right. Well, we see a lot of gold. Let's put it that way.
Thank you.
Which I love, and I'm so excited for you. And for those of you who want to learn more, become part of the Vapes Clan. Go ahead and check that out there at Vapes Clan, so you all can get connected and start being part of that amazing community, which sounds like it's going to just blow up and be amazing. Brian, I just want to thank you for being here today. This is your website. People can reach out to you via email as well and via LinkedIn. I want to thank you for your insights, for your compassion, for your time, for your energy, and just being here today. I thank you for being an amazing co-host. You can come back anytime you want. You just let me know.
I'll see you tomorrow. Let's do it. I'm the new Michael Strahan. Let's do it.
All right. Awesome. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Please, if you like this, please subscribe. You can learn more. You can get updates about upcoming podcasts. Like and subscribe. And I hope to see you next week. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful week.
Thanks, everybody.